Good morning. So glad that you are here to worship with us this morning. You ever do a trust fall? You know what a trust fall is? Right? It's when someone, you stand there and someone stands behind you and they say, okay, fall back and I'll catch you. Right? That person will usually do one of these. You sure you got me? Right? And they're like, yeah, I got you. And then they will just fall. I'm not going to do it, obviously. There's no one, But, if you do this, and then a lot of times what ends up happening is as they are getting closer and closer to the ground, their foot comes out, right? And you're like, come on, don't you trust me? Like, yeah, I trust you. Like, I trust you. I promise I'm going to catch you. Don't worry. And they're like, okay, I trust you. So they'll do it, and then they'll go back, and then that foot will come out, right? You see, even though a lot of times we say that we trust someone, it's hard to actually know if we trust them until we do something like a trust fall, right? Where we actually have to put that trust into action. I remember doing that with my kids, right? And, obviously my kids are like, yeah, I trust you, Dad. They had such a hard time. Like letting go and just saying, all right, I got you. And like eventually they got it. And they were like, oh, that was fun. Abby's like, Dad, your turn. I'll catch you. I'm like, I'm not so sure about that, right? The thing is, it's because we know the person who's going to catch us is trustworthy that we are saying, you know what, I do trust you, right? I trust that you don't have any malintent, that you're going to allow me to drop, but I also trust that you have the ability to catch me, right? So, if we were to come and say, let's do a trust fall together, right? And I say, hey, Rich, you want to volunteer? I'm like, no, wait a second, Rich. I don't know if I can handle. Do you guys know who Rich is? Rich Evans is this tall giant up front, right? No matter how much we trust one another, there has to be trust and ability, right? And the thing is that the God that we serve is this God who is able. But we need to have in our hearts that understanding that God is worthy of our trust, right? Because a lot of times we can say that we trust somebody, and a lot of times we can say that I have faith in somebody, but until we actually prove it or show it, that trust is just kind of theoretical. That's exactly what James says in James chapter 2, verse 14. We have been talking about the practical faith, what it means for us to actually live out our faith, what the Christian life actually looks like. And in this series, as we go through the book of James, we find ourselves in a verse that I think is probably very common to us because it's something that we have heard very often. Maybe because you've heard a pastor preach on it several times in the past. I want you to realize the reason why it gets preached so often is because the church doesn't live it out most of the times. What good is it, my brothers and sisters, if someone claims to have faith but has no deeds? Can such faith save them? Can such faith save them? Now, it's a rhetorical question, right? It's a question that is supposed to be answered. No, such faith cannot save them, right? It's supposed to be answered. We're supposed to know that the answer to that question, if someone claims to have faith but has no deeds, that sort of faith is not the faith that saves. Now, I want you to realize that. Right? I want you to realize what it is that James is saying, because he's not just talking about spiritual growth. Right? A lot of times we think, well, I wish that, I know that I need to grow in my faith, and I would if I put my faith into action. But that's not actually what James is talking about. He's talking about salvation itself. Right? He's saying, look, if you think that you have faith, but you're not putting it into action, that faith is not genuine faith. He's saying you might think that you know all about God. You might think you believe that God exists. You might think that you understand everything about Him. But if you're not actually putting your faith in Him, then that sort of faith is not genuine faith, meaning it's not saving faith. Now, there's an illustration that I'd like to share with you. It comes from Evangelism Explosion, right? And it talks about a chair, right? And he says, and the illustration goes, do you believe this chair exists? Now, everyone will say, well, yes, obviously, I see it with my own eyes. It's there. Do you believe that this chair has the ability to support you? Well, you look at it, it looks pretty sturdy. It looks like it's a strong chair. So yes, of course, I believe that it has the ability to support me. So why isn't it supporting you? Because you see, the belief that this chair exists, the factual understanding that this chair is built in a sound way, you might research, who made it, is there history of chairs that was made by this company, that did they fail, things like that. You might do all the research, but ultimately, unless you actually sit in the chair doesn't actually do anything for you. All of your understanding and belief that this chair exists, all of your knowledge about this chair ultimately does nothing for you unless you actually put your body in the chair. That's faith that saves. Right? The faith that saves is the faith that says that goes beyond me just simply knowing and understanding, but faith that actually puts myself in Jesus' hands. Faith that says, God, I believe not only that you are able to, but that you are already saving me. That you put your faith into action. That's what James says. He says, what good is it really if we were just to know without putting it into action? Paul says it in a similar light. Now about food sacrificed to idols, we know that we all possess knowledge, but knowledge puffs up, while love builds up. This is what he's saying. He's saying you might understand so much about God. You might know so much. You might have studied theology. You might have got there and really researched everything, and you sat there and you increased your knowledge. Maybe every single day, every single moment you sit there and you're just sitting there and just reading and reading and learning and learning and learning. But if all of that learning doesn't lead to love, all you do is puff up. All you do is get arrogant. All you do is think more of yourself than you actually are. Because it's love that is building up. It's love that builds up. But mere knowledge simply puffs up. He's saying you end up with an overestimated understanding of your faith. You think that you are more than you actually are. A lot of times we'll sit here in this sanctuary. We'll listen to a sermon, we'll nod, and we'll say, I agree with that. And because we agree, we think, that's enough. I said my amens, I said my prayers, and on my way out, I agreed with everything that the pastor said, so I must have a huge faith. What this is saying is, all of that understanding amounts to little or nothing unless you actually live out love. Unless you actually live it out. See, the problem is, in the church, a lot of times, that's not the way it goes. Right? A lot of times we sit there and we'll read, we'll be convicted of something, and we'll be like so blessed by it, and I'm so thankful for this. And then we'll think of other people that really need to hear that message. Right? We'll think of other people that are struggling with that, and then we'll say, yeah, that person really needs that sermon. Or that person really needs that understanding. And rather than loving them, we'll begin to judge them. We'll see everyone else's failures rather than seeing our own. We'll see what everyone else should improve on rather than seeing what I have done wrong. That knowledge will puff up rather than building up. James continues. Suppose a brother or a sister is without clothes and daily food. If one of you says to them, go in peace, keep warm and well fed, but does nothing about their physical needs, what good is it? In the same way, faith by itself, if it is not accompanied by action, is dead. What's he saying? He's saying you see people in need and you do nothing for them. You have all these great intentions and you have all these great hopes, but you do nothing to actually physically help them. He says that sort of faith is dead. Not long ago, whenever there were different tragedies, like on Facebook, you would see, something happened, and people would say those words, thoughts and prayers, and it became like a source of mockery, right? Because what they're saying is those thoughts and those prayers mean nothing. It was really pointing fingers at the church, who would often say, we're praying for you. Prayers for. I'll be honest with you, when I first heard that, I took it personally. I took it as an attack to the church. I took it as an attack to myself. I took it as an attack to prayer. But really what the world is saying is, live out your faith. It's really saying the same thing that James is saying. That your thoughts and your prayers mean nothing without action. If you say that you love someone but don't actually love them, if you don't actually give your love to them, that love is just simply theory. That love is just empty words. That love is just mere good intentions. What it's saying is that love is not worth anything at all. Faith, by itself, if it's not accompanied by action, is dead. Faith, that word, that is the power of salvation, for many of us, it's a broken word, a meaningless word. Faith that saves his people, right? Putting our faith in Jesus Christ is the way that we are saved. And when it's not put into action, it means nothing. Does that scare you? It scares me. Like the thought of that scares me. That I can know so much and understand so much, but without actually living it out, God says that your faith, it's empty. Another way that it's said, someone will say, I have faith. You have faith. I have deeds. Show me your faith without deeds, and I will show you my faith by my deeds. What it's saying is, put your money where your mouth is. Right? That's what it's saying. What it's saying is, the proof is in the pudding. What it's saying is, all those words are empty without any real substance. You say you have faith. Well, I have deeds. You realize that these two things, faith and deeds, must go hand in hand. Right? Because in this passage, it's so clear. Faith without deeds is dead. Right? Faith without deeds is like knowledge that just simply puffs up. But also deeds without faith is also empty. Right? It requires there to be a mutual work of faith and deeds in our lives, that we know who our God is and we put that into action. So he says, I will show you my faith by my deeds. Jesus says those words too. No good tree bears bad fruit, nor does a bad tree bear good fruit. Each tree is recognized by its own fruit. People do not pick figs from thorn bushes or grapes from briars. A good man brings good things out of the good stored up in his heart. And an evil man brings evil things out of the evil stored up in his heart. For the mouth speaks what the heart is full of. You know what he's saying? Whatever it is that's going on in your heart will eventually come out. Whatever's happening in your heart will eventually come out. Not just through your words, but also in your actions. That you would bear good fruit if your heart is good. If God has transformed your heart and placed faith in it, then good would happen. So it's important for us to make that realization, right? To take that assessment into our lives and we look back and see, where is the fruit in my life? What sort of fruit am I producing with the way that I live? No, truly. Give thought to that question. What is the fruit of my life? What's the fruit of my faith? What is it that I'm producing through the faith that I have? Is it good fruit? Or is it evil fruit? Do I produce love and grace? Does the faith in me produce forgiveness and mercy? Does the faith in me cause me to take up the cause of the widow and the orphan? Does the faith in me allow me to put into action what it is that I believe? Or is there unforgiveness and bitterness that comes out? Is there hatred and malice that results? Is there greed, anxiety, and fear and depression? Where is your faith leading you? How is your faith affecting you? Are you truly putting your faith into action? James says, you believe that there is one God? Good. But even the demons believe that, and they shudder. You know what he's saying? Your knowledge of God amounts to nothing. Even the demons believe that God exists and there is one God. Right? If that's the full extent of your faith, someone once said, if you believe that God exists and that's as far as you go, congratulations, you are now qualified to be a demon. You shudder at the thought? Scary, isn't it? See, I realized a lot of times we think that we have this false sense of security because we sit here. We come to church on Sundays and we think, this proves that I'm a Christian. But it really doesn't. Because if we don't put that faith into action, it just proves that you know that God exists. It just proves that you understand that there is one God. But really, you're could be just like a demon. Your faith needs to lead to action. James continues. You foolish person. Did you catch that? In the beginning, he starts with brothers and sisters, and now he just kind of goes all out. You foolish person. Do you want evidence that faith without deeds is useless? Was not our father Abraham considered righteous for what he did when he offered his son Isaac at the altar? You see that his faith and his actions were working together, and his faith was made complete by what he did. And the scripture was fulfilled that says Abraham believed God, and it was credited to him as righteousness. And he was called God's friend. You see that a person is considered righteous by what they do and not by faith alone. Repeating this message again and again and again, James says, look, it's so simple. Put your faith into action. You know what it's like? I think I've been kind of like fairly overweight my entire life. Right? Maybe, well, actually, that's not true. After third grade. Before third grade, I was skinny. But after third grade, I was pretty much overweight my entire life, right? And I know how to lose weight. I really do, right? Watch what you eat. Don't eat too late. Stop eating snacks. Exercise. It's so simple. Everyone tells you how simple it is to lose weight. I don't go to the gym. I love eating snacks. I love eating late night snacks, especially ice cream. You see, it really is the exact same thing, isn't it? We know what we're supposed to do. We know exactly what we're supposed to do. It's a question of, are you doing it? If I stand here and I tell you how to be a good Christian, there's not a single person that will be like, really? That's news to me. I didn't know I was supposed to read the Bible. I didn't know I'm supposed to pray. No, everybody knows that sort of stuff. Do your devotions. Come to church on time. Forgive one another. Love one another. These are things we all know. These are things that we have known for a long time already. It's a question of doing. I'm still fat today because I don't do. It's simple. You will still be who you are because you don't do. We say, oh, I wish I could change. Right? I wish I was a stronger Christian. I wish that I had more faith. I wish that God would just reveal himself to me. I wish that there were more miracles in my life. We have all these wishes, all these good intentions, all these hopes. But with zero action, we get zero results. In about a month, we'll be starting 21-day dawn prayer. Now, some of you, when you hear those words already, you're like, nope, not for me. Put your faith into action. Make a commitment. Right? Make a commitment to say, you know what? I really want to grow in my faith, and so commit to coming out. We have Wednesday worship every single week. Put your faith into action. Every single day, there's an opportunity to do your devotions. We talk about living life all the time. Doing your devotions. We say, oh, I wish I could grow. I wish God would be more real to me. Put your faith into action. We know what we're supposed to do. In a way, you've heard this message so many times, it's unnecessary. We could have ended at 9:45. The truth is, even if I preach this message week after week, for years, some of us, all we'll have will be good intentions and hopes. It's time to change, isn't it? I mean, let's be honest. Aren't you sick and tired of just that same old faith that you were just falling to the same cycle of? Asking God, will you help me? The word is there. Right? The word is so clear. The reason that we're not growing, the reason why we're not maturing in our faith, because we know so much of what we should do, but we do so little. Faith without deeds is dead. What will your faith lead you to do? What will be the fruit of your faith this morning? We can come and say, God, would you change me? Will you move in me? And we'll spend that time in prayer. But sometimes it's our feet that need to move. It's our actions that need to change. Put your faith into action. Let's pray.